Today is Thursday, July 27th, 2017.
And you're listening to another episode of Natural Living Homestead Podcast.
So let's jump right into it because we have a lot to discuss today. First off, we started having some rain, and we discussed that last week. That made everything pop, grow, and everything is lush. On Monday of this week, the temperatures were cooler, in the high 70s, low 80s, so that made working outside enjoyable, and that day was overcast as well. We took some time to mow, trim, and work in the garden. On Tuesday, I canned 23 pints of pasta sauce. Monday was followed by 2 days of high heat with temps in the high 90s. But last night we got 4 inches of rain, and it has been overcast all day.
So let's get them up to speed a little bit about what's going on behind the barn.
Well, we have been working on building an archery range and air rifle range.
Not just an archery range, but also a play area in the timber, including a clubhouse, a tire swing, a zip line, a rope ladder, and a tire course.
We have made many trips to town to bring home free tires from a local tire shop. That's why Sean's hands were so black in that video yesterday.
When it's all done, it will all assemble a military-type training course, and it'll give the kids a real fun place to go out there and just be themselves and learn how to discover how to play like kids do in timber and make their own adventures out there.
This weekend, not only do we have Ashley and Aaron here, we're going to be working on a couple videos. One which we're keeping under our hat.
The other one we'll be doing a video on Saturday, which is we won't be releasing the video on Saturday, but we'll be making the video on Saturday, and that's we will be building a chickshaw. Just like you see Justin Rhodes move his chickens around in. This will give us access to move our chickens that is going to be a different flock. It'll let us move them from paddock to paddock and let them work over the gardens for us so we don't have to touch that. And that's actually going to be our olive egger flock, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we have 20 chickens in that flock.
Wow. So it's right now we have Generation 1 olive eggers, and we also have the Morans.
And the Americanas.
Which there will be a few more joining that flock here soon.
Sure. Yeah, we can put the other Americanas in there.
Yep. I want to talk to you guys for a moment about we are going to be launching our podcast onto a regular podcast format as well. We will continue to keep it here on YouTube for anybody who wants to listen to it on YouTube, but we are also discovering different platforms that we can use and how we can launch them. We don't know what avenue we're going to take yet, avenue or avenues. As soon as we know, we will get you updated on when we're getting ready to launch our new podcast.
So just a reminder, we are not going to be putting out videos this Friday or Saturday. We're going to be busy working on the homestead and taking care of the gardens, canning,
building the chickshaw, building the range, building the kids' play course back there, whatever it is. So we will give you guys all videos on that stuff. But in order for us to get these things done, we just got to do them. We got to do them and get them done.
And there will be a Survival Sunday episode.
That's right. So Simon B. had some questions for us this week. He left them in one of the comments to our videos on the last podcast. And, honey, you want to read those questions off? Let's start with the first one.
Okay, first question. As your homestead appears to be an old farm, I wondered how extensive your land is and whether you'd ever plant crops in the larger fields to grow your own animal feed or food, etc. And then in parentheses, I wondered if you could perhaps hire a local farm worker to do a day's worth of plowing and planting to start with if you do have large fields.
Good question. Simon B., thank you for the question. The answer is our farm is 4 acres. It includes the barn, it includes the old white chicken coop, the grain bins, the farmhouse, and if you notice, the farmhouse is fenced in. Let's see here. We've got a pasture. It's not completely fenced in. We're growing a paddock system out there is what we're working on that connects to the barn. It's also got about an acre of timber out there. So between the pasture, the timber and everything with the grain bins, the buildings and structures, everything sits on 4 acres. Unfortunately, the ground that's to the east and to the west of us is not ours. It is all in CRP, except for towards the end of the driveway. They are farming that. They've got corn in it this year. So, and as far as, let's see, did that question have anything about planting for our own animals?
Right. Larger
Okay.
fields to grow your own food for animals.
Yep. It could be done here on this property, by far. We're not willing to give up that space just yet. We do use that area sometimes for the 4-wheeler, for the kids to have fun. At some point in time, I think you might see us plant organic corn for the animals, and maybe some other types of feeds, maybe alfalfa, stuff like that. But at this time, not. We could hire a farmer locally to help us plant. That I don't think that'd be any problem. As a matter of fact, I probably have enough buddies in the farming industry that wouldn't mind giving me a hand. So, I hope that answers your question there. And you had another question. You want to read that, honey?
Sure. Do you plan to try any non-traditional, non-tilled methods of planting, such as the Back to Eden method as an example, or do you prefer traditional tilling methods?
It depends on what the crop is, for sure. If it's corn, it's definitely going to be till. And from now on, I think if it's going to be tomatoes or peppers, I don't think we'll be doing any more tilling for that. Do you? Do you think so, honey?
No, as long as they're spaced out far enough that I can mow in between them.
Yes, I don't think I'd plant a pepper or a tomato any other way. We've had such luck with them this year. Yes, that ground was tilled first, but grass came straight up, filled paddock 2, and all we have to do is keep paddock 2 mowed now, and that keeps the weeds out. That keeps our plants healthy and the grass low so it doesn't choke out our plants. And, we're on a sand farm is part of the other thing too. And with it being a sand farm is we have to figure out ways to be resourceful to keep that moisture in the ground. So having a stand of grass on top of it, I think, is the number one way that we can hold moisture there. And it doesn't really affect the crops at all as far as tomatoes and peppers. And tomatoes and peppers are our main product, I think, here on the farm. I think we're going to get more into squashes next year, although we have had some really good luck so far with them this year. Our giant pumpkin is somewhere around 60 to 70 pounds, I'm estimating so far.
You weren't supposed to tell them that secret yet.
Oh, I just did.
I was going to keep them in suspense about that.
Well, we'll keep them in suspense from now on of how big the pumpkin's getting.
Okay.
But it is getting big. So I really kind of consider the tomatoes and peppers as kind of a back to garden type thing. Given that we don't care what comes up next to it, for the most part it's just grass. And after that's done, it's filled and ready for the animals to come through as well. I'm not really a big fan of naked soil. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I will tell you this, when starting a garden from scratch, it's not such a bad thing to have, if you're not going to throw stuff on top of it to plant into, then, or lay some cardboard over top of, then the tilling's not a bad idea there. If you plan on keeping the weeds away from, keeping the weeds away from your plant so they don't get choked out is the main thing about that. But if you've got the right cover on the ground, then they're not going to choke them out for you. I know next year we plan on putting these big black tarps over our garden before we plant. And that will warm up the soil faster, increase the bug activity in the ground, and then we'll be ready to put plants in the ground once we take the tarps off. Is there another question there?
Yes, there is. I wondered if you ever bolster your meat stores via hunting at all, and if so, what sort of meat and how much does this contribute to your yearly meat supply?
Great question. Yes, and yes. We do. We process a couple deer a year, don't we, babe? And
Yes.
We process squirrels, we process rabbits. You know, the rabbits and squirrels, not so much they don't add a whole lot. You don't get much, but maybe one meal out of a good-sized rabbit. And, but the venison, absolutely. And a lot of the times we are given deer by friends and family. And I can't tell you, when you're busy and you're working and you don't have time to hunt, it is such a blessing to have somebody gift you a deer. You know, when it just needs process. Boom, we had an extra deer. Look me up anytime. I'll be happy to process a deer. How much does it help out our food supplies? Well, a good sized deer can add 50 pounds to our food stores, 50, 60 pounds. You know, a doe maybe more towards 45 to 48, 50 pounds, unless she's a real big doe. But, you know, as far as meat, we go through lots of meat in the house, don't we, babe?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of growing kids.
Yep. And for us, we constantly need a source of meat in the house. Otherwise, we're going to Aldi's buying the $1.99 sausage rolls. And I buy that as opposed to the hamburger over there because it's even less. It doesn't have as much of a sausage taste as what you might think, or traditionally would think with sausage. It's more mild. So we would use that in Hamburger Helper and things like that. So we do occasionally buy rolls of sausage at the store, or maybe hamburger on sale when it's at the store at $1.99 a pound or less, $1.69. But generally, we try to provide our own meat for our fridge. But, you know, I think right now we're providing every bit of 2/3 of the red meat for our house. Now, as far as chicken, I won't buy chicken in the store anymore. I'm done doing that. What about you?
I agree.
Yep, it's a chicken on our farm that we raise, and that's it. So,
We have plenty of them.
yep. Great question. Simon B., thank you for the questions.
Okay, so just a reminder, if you have any questions or something you want us to talk about on our podcast, feel free to send it to us at our email, and that is www.naturallivinghomestead@gmail.com, or leave your question in a comment. Also, if you have a video or an audio file that you'd like for us to play, as long as it's appropriate, we'll play that in our next podcast too. So thanks for listening and joining us on our journey on a small farm.